NBA bomb. Celtics and Hawks discuss a trade. Who's headed to Boston? Speak up, Celtics Nation. If you opened YouTube today and thought, bro, is Boston going to change the squad again? Stay here with me. There is talk of a trade with the Atlanta Hawks, and the question is just one. Who can arrive in Boston, and what will we have to deliver? I know the pain. We love this team. But when there are rumors of a trade, there comes that fear of losing an important piece, of messing up the chemistry, and in the end, not improving anything. So in 30 seconds, I will explain to you what really makes sense, which names come into play, and the most likely scenario for you to leave here, understanding whether this is a real bomb or just noise. Let's get straight to the point. Before I show you the names and the most likely scenario of this exchange, quick. If you like Celtics and want hot news without the hassle, subscribe to the channel now. We're in a race to reach 1,000 subscribers, and I'll be very direct. This goal changes the game for us. It helps the channel reach more people, strengthens the community, and makes YouTube understand that this content deserves to be recommended. In other words, more videos, more frequency, and more complete coverage of the Celtics for you. So do the combo with me now. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like. This helps the video a lot to deliver. Activate the bell so you don't miss any updates, and comment below. Would you trade who for who? Now let's get straight to the point because there is a detail in this negotiation that could change everything. If I asked you a very direct question now, looking at the current situation of the Boston Celtics, do you feel that our recent history is written with just two names on the cover, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown? Because, as much as they are the center of the project, as much as we trust in their talent and leadership, there is a truth that every fan learns over time. The NBA does not forgive predictability. The team that wants to keep winning needs to always be one step ahead, even when it's already good, even when it's already at the top, even when it seems like just keep everything as it is. And that's exactly why this rumor attracts so much attention, because it affects something bigger than a simple exchange of parts. It messes with the idea of the future. It touches on that question that sooner or later knocks on the door of any franchise that wants to live a long era of competitiveness. How do you stay strong without depending on a single casting cycle? Now, let's get to the point. Zaccharie Risacher, first pick in the 2024 draft, is just 20 years old, and according to reports, could be available on the market. I know the weight of that sentence. It's not every day that the league puts a player with this profile on its radar. Young, with a high ceiling, chosen number one, and still at the beginning of his career. And when an opportunity like this appears, even if it's still surrounded by maybe and it depends, the Celtics need to at least sit at the table and listen, because the context of the Atlanta Hawks is very peculiar. It wasn't long ago that they decided that this boy would be the face of the project, the symbol of a new phase, the maximum bet. And even so, the signs point to a change of course. Atlanta wants immediate results. It wants to get out of the way. It wants to become truly relevant again. And we know what happens when a franchise enters this urgency mode. It starts to measure the development of a young player with the yardstick of now, not the yardstick of what he can be. And therein lies the space for Boston, because the Celtics, unlike a lot of people, don't need Risacher to save a season. The Celtics are not desperate. The Celtics aren't looking for a savior. The Celtics are looking, if it makes sense, for a future piece who can also contribute in the present, without stifling the team, without changing the entire identity, without breaking what works. Think with me for a few seconds. The Celtics' current base is strong, it is mature, it is expensive, and inevitably, it will become even more expensive or more aged as the years go by. Tatum and Brown are in their prime and deserve a roster that maximizes their title chances year after year. At the same time, Porzingis and Holiday, as important as they are, represent that layer of the squad that you always need to manage carefully. Physical issues, pace, long-term planning, competitive window. And that's not criticism. This is the reality of a champion squad. So, when a name like Risacher comes up, the conversation changes level. It's not another winger on the bench. It's the chance to place within a winning environment a player who can become much more than a specialist. It's your chance to do something that smart franchises always try to do: renew without rebuilding. The 2024 draft was sold as a class with high-potential wings, versatile defenders, big guys who move well, who shoot, who who change marking. And Risacher, based on everything that has been analyzed, represents this mold. A tall, athletic player with mechanics the shot that doesn't seem improvised, with room to grow off the dribble, and with signs that it can make an impact on both sides of the court. This type of prospect, when placed in the right context, can greatly accelerate your own development. And based on what was said about his freshman season, he didn't disappoint. On the contrary, there was recognition. There were flashes on both sides. It showed that it has material. But the time of development is not the same for everyone. Sometimes a kid will become a star in his second year. Sometimes it will take 3-4 seasons to fit the body, reading, confidence, and consistency. And some franchises simply don't have the patience for that. Now, imagine him arriving in Boston. And I'm talking about the scenario, the fit, the idea, not an easy promise. In Boston, he would not need to carry the burden of being the face of the franchise. In Boston, he wouldn't have to answer every night for the hope of a fan base that wants him to solve everything. In Boston, he could be what young talents need to be to grow healthily, a player with a role, with controlled freedom, with minutes earned, with errors corrected, and with victories that reinforce the process. The Celtics are a place where responsibility is high, yes, but it is also a place where there is structure. There is a working pattern. There is an environment where details matter and where the team has leaders who demand the best. And when a young person falls into this type of environment, two things can happen. Either he loses himself under the pressure, or he matures faster than he would in a directionless team. This is the risk, and at the same time, the reward. In attack, the fit is easy to see. Boston lives on spacing, lives on volume of three, lives on quick decisions. A tall winger with a shot and an understanding of movement without the ball is a precious asset, because it's not just about kicking when there's plenty left. It's about running to the right corner, making the right cut, being in the right passing lane, opening the corridor at the right time. It's about becoming part of a system that punishes any late defensive help. And when you put that alongside a team that already has established creators and finishers, you create a really good situation for a young guy. He will not be the focus of the defense. He's not going to get the opposition's best defender every night. He will find cleaner throws. He will receive passes at the right time. He will have the chance to better choose when to attack a closeout and when to just keep possession alive. Now, defensively, the conversation becomes even more interesting because the Celtics are largely supported by their ability to change marking and maintain intensity. A player with size, agility, and instinct to disrupt passing lanes can quickly become a valuable asset, even before becoming a great scorer. And that's one of the things that makes a coach trust a young player the most. If he comes in and doesn't compromise the defense, he has a way to gain minutes. And here comes an important point. The Celtics don't need him to be perfect. You need it to be useful. You need him to understand the system. He needs to be reliable enough to be on the court when the game gets tough, or at least to hold on for a few minutes without the team losing its identity. Now, of course, we need to talk about the part that fans always want to understand sincerely. What would Atlanta ask for? What would Boston have to give? Because a good opportunity does not mean a cheap opportunity. A name like Sam Hauser appears naturally in these scenarios. He's a pitcher that any franchise respects, has an attractive contract, and has immediate value. For a Hawks looking to improve right now, it makes sense to look at a guy like that. Furthermore, draft picks are always part of the debate, and Boston has the ability to put together a package with picks and young projects. Jordan Walsh, J.D. Davidson, they are different profiles, but they are names that can be added to complete a proposal with present plus future. But I don't want to sell this as if it were simple. The first overall pick, even when the player hasn't exploded yet, carries political and sporting value. Atlanta will want to come out of this negotiation with something they can justify internally and externally. You'll want real value. You'll probably want flexibility. And you may also want a piece that helps you compete immediately. And that's where Brad Stevens comes in. Because when we talk about Brad, the conversation isn't just he's smart. He has a history of calculated decisions, of reading the market, of understanding when a movement could open a new competitive cycle. Brad doesn't move out of anxiety. He moves when he sees a path. And if this rumor is real and if there is room for conversation, I imagine that Boston will do what it always does. Evaluate cost, evaluate impact on the locker room, evaluate fit, Evaluate contract horizon. Evaluate what is lost and what is gained. And you know what is it more interesting? It's just that this kind of move, if it happens, isn't just about this season. It's about the next 5 years. It's about you looking at the current cast and saying, we're going to stay strong, even when the pieces inevitably change. It's about ensuring that when the time comes to renew, you're not starting from scratch. But I also need to be fair and include the part that a lot of people ignore when they're excited. There are risks, and serious risks. First, development is not a straight line. A young person can stagnate. You may lose confidence, may have difficulty adapting to the pace and pressure. And Boston is one of the most demanding places in the league. Here, the silence doesn't last long. If you play well, you become part of the story. If you fluctuate, you become an issue. And not every player handles it well at first. Second, the opportunity cost. If you put useful picks and pieces into a trade like this, you may be giving up flexibility for a larger move in the future. You may be reducing your ability to make deadline adjustments. You may be changing the depth of the cast, which in a long season makes a difference. And in a team fighting for the title, depth is a word that is respected. Third, minutes and paper fitting. Because as young as he is, he will want to play. And the Celtics already have a competitive rotation. The challenge will be to put him on a path of evolution without blocking the team's flow. This type of management is delicate. You want to give space, but you don't want to compromise consistency. Now, even with all of this, I completely understand why the discussion is so seductive. Because when a player with the profile of a big young winger with potential on both sides appears on the market, it becomes a rare window. And rare windows don't come around often for a championship team. Normally, when you're at the top, the market offers you veterans, short contracts, occasional adjustments. It doesn't give you a 20-year-old first overall pick with a star ceiling. So I return to the initial question because it's the heart of this conversation. What if the Celtics' future isn't just about Tatum and Brown? Not in the sense of replacing, not in the sense of changing focus, but in the sense of building a longer, smarter, more sustainable timeline around them in order to ensure that the franchise remains competitive when the league changes, when contracts change, when the landscape of the Eastern Conference changes. And this is where I want to talk to you as someone who actually lives the Celtics on a daily basis. I know that there are fans who always prefer the now path, exchanging everything that isn't a core for veterans and trying to win immediately. And this reasoning is logical, because when you have a team ready for a title, you don't want to waste time. But there is one detail. The now also becomes stronger when you prepare the later. A franchise that thinks well can do both. The question, then, is not whether Risacher is good or bad. The question is, does the price make sense for what it could turn into in Boston? And this is the most difficult part of any analysis, because it involves projection, it involves risk, it involves patience, it involves reading the market. If the package only costs what's replaceable, you're buying a shot. If the package comes at the expense of essential depth, you may be weakening the now too much. If the package requires choices that compromise total flexibility, you may be locking in the future you want to protect. And Brad Stevens will weigh this as someone who knows exactly what a decision like this represents. Now, let me paint you a very realistic scenario of how this could translate into the game. Imagine a second unit in which he enters with a clear role, defend with energy, run in transition, attack closeouts, occupy the corner, cut when the defense looks at the ball too much. It's not glamour. It's not a high statistic at first. It's function. It's about repeating good decisions. It's about gaining the coach's trust. It's learning from veterans in training, on video, in big game situations. And over time, you start to see the signs. You start to see a faster pitch, a firmer dribble, a calmer pass reading, a more disciplined defense. And suddenly you're looking at a player who came in as a project and became a real player. This is how a future begins to be born. But, again, none of this is guaranteed. The Celtics wouldn't be buying certainty. I would be buying possibility. And the possibility, when it comes with that kind of pedigree and that kind of age, is usually expensive. But it's also often what separates a very good team from a franchise that can go through eras without falling. So I want to invite you to think together with me, calmly and honestly. If this negotiation really existed, would you do it? Would you put Hauser and choices on the table? Would you include a young man to complete? Or would you say no and keep everything as it is, betting that the current squad, as it is the best possible route? And there's more. Do you think Boston is the right place for a player like that to grow? Do you believe that a winning environment accelerates development? Or do you think that pressure can get in the way? Do you see Risacher as someone who can become a real impact piece, or as a risk not worth the cost? I like this type of discussion because it reveals what each fan values. There are people who value security. There are people who value boldness. And sometimes, the right decision is well-calculated boldness. Don't be bold on impulse. The boldness that comes from reading, from structure, from patience, from vision. And if there's one thing I want to make clear here on the Celtics Talk Show, it's this. The history of the Celtics is too big to be experienced automatically. This team has always been, at different times, a symbol of intelligent construction and ambition. A team that, when it had the chance to stay great, chose to be great. And if there is a moment when a rare opportunity appears, our obligation as fans is to understand the context, see both sides, and demand that the decision is taken with courage and responsibility. Now, I want to really hear from you. If you were Brad Stevens for a day, what would your decision be? Would you try this swap? If yes, with what limits? What would you absolutely not give up? And if not, why? Write your scenario, your proposal, your reasoning here. I read everything because that's what this channel is made of. Serious talk, an attentive look, and passion for the Boston Celtics with a cool head and a connected heart. If you like this type of analysis, follow the channel because the season is long and the market never sleeps. And if this rumor is just noise, we separate the noise from what is real. If it's a concrete opportunity, we break down every detail. One way or another, the Celtics remain at the center of decisions that could change the course of the league. And I end with the same idea that opened the video, only now with more weight. The future of the Boston Celtics can continue to be about Tatum and Brown, yes. But he could be even greater if Boston knows how to put the next right piece at the right time alongside them. This is how you build something that lasts. This is how you transform a great team into an unforgettable era. And that's what makes everything even more serious. We're not talking about a small adjustment, any rumor that will disappear tomorrow. We are talking about the type of decision that could separate two completely different realities for the Boston Celtics. A reality in which the team remains at the top for years, renewing without losing strength, and another in which, due to a detail, a hesitation, a movement made too late, the future is pushed to later until later becomes too late. If that door really is open, it's not just about who comes in or who goes out. It's about the Celtics choosing whether they just want to compete or whether they want to build an era. Because dynasty is not born from talent alone. Dynasty is born from vision, timing, and courage to act when everyone is still trying to understand what is happening. Now I want to hear from you. Would you make this switch? Which package would you put on the table, and which line would you absolutely not cross? Write in the comments, because I will read and respond to the most well-thought-out scenarios. And before you leave, I'm going to ask you something that makes a lot of difference. In the pinned comment, I left the playlist, Celtics Analyses. Go there now and open this playlist, because there you have the most complete analyses of the channel, with context, details, and everything you need to follow every Celtics move without falling into internet noise. When you watch via the playlist, you help the channel grow, help YouTube recommend more, and most importantly, you don't miss any piece of the puzzle. So do this. Finish this video and add it to the Celtics Analyses playlist in the pinned comment. The next analysis could completely change the way you see this cast. We'll see you next time, because when Boston moves, the rest of the league feels it.